is the big grass fire in southeast Oregon. It scorched more than 280,000 acres. Just since Thursday, it is just 5% contained.
More than 1 million acres of Oregon are on fire. Not over the course of a bad season, not a projection for August. Right now, tonight, as you're watching this, dozens of large wildfires are burning across the state at the same time, and together, they've already consumed over 1 million acres of ground. An area larger than the entire state of Rhode Island. Gone, or going, in a matter of days. And here is the sentence that should stop you. It's only July. In Oregon, the fire season isn't supposed to peak until August, sometimes September. July is usually the warm-up, the month when the land dries out and the danger climbs, before the worst arrives later. 1 million acres is the kind of number you'd expect to hear at the end of a brutal season, not near the start of one. The state is hitting its late summer catastrophe numbers weeks ahead of schedule, and the people whose job it is to fight these fires are saying so out loud. One official with the Oregon Department of Forestry put it about as plainly as it can be put. Conditions are so dry right now, she said, that any small ember could potentially start the next large wildfire. That's not a warning about next month. That's a description of the ground under people's feet today. So the real question hanging over Oregon tonight isn't how bad it is. We can measure how bad it is. The question is, if the state is already at 1 million acres in July, with the driest, hottest, most dangerous stretch of the year still ahead of it, what does August look like? Stay with us, because we deal in real data here, not invented drama. If that's what you're here for, subscribe. We do this every week. Let's walk through what's actually burning, why it exploded so fast, and the part almost nobody is talking about. The thing that runs out long before the fires do. Start with the one that's forced the most people from their homes because it tells you how fast this moved. Just west of the town of Madras, in central Oregon, 2 fires broke out and then did the thing firefighters dread most. They merged. What had been the bench fire and the beachcomb fire became a single blaze, now simply called the bench fire, and by this week, it covered more than 40,000 acres with 0% containment. 0. Not 5, not 1. 0% of that fire's edge was under control. It moved on the Warm Springs Reservation, home of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and it moved fast enough that the entire community of Warm Springs was placed under a Level 3 evacuation order. In Oregon's system, Level 3 means one thing: go. Now. Not gather your things, not wait and see, leave immediately, because the fire is close enough that staying could cost you your life. The fire jumped the Deschutes River, a natural barrier you'd hope would slow it, and kept going. It opened up 3 separate fronts threatening the community at once. At least 6 homes and 5 other buildings were confirmed destroyed, and crews were still counting. The tribal council declared a state of emergency. A boil water notice went out, because the systems a community relies on start failing the moment the fire reaches the infrastructure. Highway 26 closed overnight between Warm Springs and Madras. Firefighters managed to save the majority of homes, and that matters. That's lives and livelihoods protected by people working through the night in impossible conditions. But a fire at 0% containment, throwing new fronts at a town after leaping a river, is a fire that is being survived, not controlled. Now here's the part almost nobody covering these fires is saying out loud, and it's the most important thing in this video. The fires are not the scarcest thing in this story. Firefighters are. There is a finite number of trained wildland firefighters, a finite number of engines and dozers and water tenders, and a very finite number of the specialized aircraft that drop water and retardant from above. When one fire breaks out, you surge those resources to it. When 2 break out, you split them. When dozens break out across a single state in the same week, while other states in the West are burning too, while smoke from Canada is already stretching crews thin, you run into a hard wall. There simply aren't enough people and machines to fully staff every fire at once. You can see it in the numbers if you know where to look. Look at the resources assigned to a fire like bench. A handful of crews, a dozen or so engines, a few dozers, a single helicopter. For a 40,000-acre fire threatening an entire town. The reports keep repeating the same phrase. Additional resources remain on order. On order. Meaning, they've asked for more, and more isn't there yet, because it's somewhere else, on another fire that needs it just as badly. This is the real ceiling on a season like this. Not the weather. The weather does what it does. The ceiling is capacity. And when capacity runs out, the strategy shifts from stopping fires to simply protecting the houses and the people directly in front of the flames, and letting the rest of the fire burn where it will. That's not failure. It's triage. It's what you do when there's more fire than there are hands to fight it. And every one of those crews is human. They've been on the line for weeks already, in a season that started early. The people are the resource that wears out, and the calendar says the hardest part is still coming. Which brings us back to where we started, and the reason this particular fire event is worth your attention over any single dramatic blaze. In a normal year, the shape of Oregon's fire season is a curve. It builds through July, peaks in August, and tapers into September as the weather finally turns. The worst weeks are supposed to be the August weeks, the deepest point of the dry season, when the fuel is at its driest, and one bad wind event can do the most damage. This year, the state hit 1 million acres before that curve reached its top. That's what the forestry official meant, and it's what the August-like conditions in July phrase is really saying. Oregon isn't at its worst right now. It's arriving at numbers it normally wouldn't see for weeks, while the conditions are still, technically, getting drier. The reservoir of firefighting capacity is already being drawn down. The crews are already tired. The fuel is already primed. And the calendar hasn't even reached the part of the year that historically does the most damage. None of that is a prediction that August will be catastrophic. Weather can shift. A wet system, a break in the wind, an early turn in the season. Any of those could take the pressure off. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you the worst is guaranteed, because it isn't. Fire seasons have surprised people in the good direction before. But the honest reading of where things stand is this. Every ingredient that produced 1 million acres in July is still in place, and the part of the year that usually makes those ingredients worse is still ahead. That's not doom, it's arithmetic, and it's exactly why the people who do this for a living are watching the next few weeks the way they are. Let me be clear about the shape of this before we close. This is not a set of coordinated or connected fires. Dozens of separate blazes across a state don't share a cause. They share a condition. The dry, hot, windy weather is the common thread. Each fire has its own ignition, most still under investigation. 2 quakes in a week isn't a conspiracy, and neither is 24 fires in a drought. It's what a primed landscape does when enough sparks meet it. And it is not a reason to panic if you're nowhere near it. If you're outside the fire zones, the practical impact is smoke and air quality. And that's worth taking seriously for anyone with heart or lung conditions, but it isn't the emergency the people under evacuation orders are living through. For those who are near it, in central or eastern Oregon, anywhere under an advisory, the guidance from officials is simple and it's the same every time. Know your evacuation level and know that it can change in minutes. At Warm Springs, the levels changed faster than the sheriff's office could type the updates. If you're told level 3, you go, and you go immediately. You do not stay to pack, because the fire that jumped the Deschutes did not wait for anyone. Have a bag ready before you're told. Sign up for your county's alert system, and check the road conditions before you drive, because in this event, the fire has been reaching the highways themselves. 1 million acres, in July, with the worst of the season still on the calendar. The fires will keep doing what dry ground and wind allow them to do. The only thing that's ever really in question is how many hands there are to stand between the flames and the people. And this year, that number was stretched thin before the hardest month even began. If this made the scale of what's happening in Oregon clearer, subscribe. We track these events as they unfold, and if this season turns the way the conditions suggest it might, you'll hear about it here. And tell us in the comments, are you in Oregon right now, or downwind of it? How's the air? How close is it to you? A lot of you are living this tonight, and we read every reply. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.